I was invited as consultant to establish a SPICE, and during this period, I had to switch to ISO 26262 and then back to a SPICE, and I just wondered how it's going on in other companies with other maybe such crazy guys as me who involved in process and try to improve everything we can see. And so I attended this VDA Automotive SYS Conference, and I was very impressed how many experts in process there were, because I probably have not seen through my career such amount of people who take care about process, especially in domain which is embedded automotive domain. And the first impression was very mature audience, not so young people as usually it's on agile conferences, but the content is what really matters. It's just general information about conference. I will not repeat it. You have seen it in invitation. But what was my observation is no ideal process exists, but yeah, as well as can't exist ideal relationship, romantic relationship or family relationship, or maybe a relationship with as friends. But it has to be cultivated as common effort for everyone involved, everyone. And yeah, there are practices, tools, and indicators which can help if properly handled. It's very similar to harnessing and growth of natural stuff. What benefit will we get from being here? First of all, I calculated when participants were preparing for the event, they spent when they were broadcasting the event, they spent about more than 30 hours of total presentation time, and preparation took more than 3 months. And if they look at the history of development of the industry, it covers more than 100 years. As additional benefit, you look at the challenges suppliers have in technical methods and solutions, and how they manage processes, what problems they have with processes, and how they handle international standards. Of course, we updated just a bit. I cannot cover everything. You get some updates about news and process and compliance improvement and definition of process and models. But before we continue, who knows what is VDA in this strange word? And who knows what's Intex? No one knows, right? Now you get one more benefit. You will know at least this basic term, because it's in automotive, it's fundamental for quality. The VDA QMC is a German Association of Automotive Industry, and this main objective of setting standards and putting qualification into practice. It started from a separate group August 1997 as a quality management center, and then started to cooperate with section of German Automotive Industry Association, VDA. So with this objective, VDA QMC develops systems, methods. Basically, it shapes the future of quality management system automotive. It also oversight IATF. IATF means International Automotive Task Force. You will see a bit about this standard later on, and it's a combination with SPICE, and coordinates working groups, trainings, publications, and conference. On one of this conference, I recently was, and they have motto: putting practice into practice. Another shot is Intex. Intex, when you have reading or looking at some certificates, probably you've seen this logo. It's International Assessor Certification Scheme. It's independent and legally registered non-profit association. So it's like community of assessors. Everyone cares about process improvement, and the main objective is high quality assessment through training certification standards and checking assessor competence. Actually, if someone come to you and want to assess you officially, you can check his ID card, and on Intex Info you can in their database they have all certified assessors. And moreover, to Intex you can complain if you don't like or don't agree how someone assessed your project. Again, I visited workshops of lead assessors site. I'll also her highlights from questionnaire which were sent locally to those who appear. From your expectations and just in few words, everyone cares about looking at how process and problems are in automotive and what is SPICE, and knowledge is basically keyword. But before we continue, let's know each other better. Okay, so we are all different, but in our difference, there's actually power, because if you look through history, look how Industry 2.0 were born or contributed by Henry Ford. Actually, it started with looking at companies packing meat packing house when they disassembled the meat. So he looked at the process, and the Ford engineers borrowed the idea from disassembly line of meat to assembly line of cars, and so second industry revolution started with assembly line technique for mass production. And now is Industry 4.0, which actually includes all interconnectivity, machine learning, real time, all the smart stuff, and it actually generates a lot of data and needs new roles and or improvement of new roles, and need to align all this big amount of data. And there actually was one presentation from Bosch, Data Quality Matters. They proposed some approach to measure quality of data. Why? Because actually organization live and die by quality of data, and the more digitalization, the more important quality of data. And automotive business already have proven processes for managing like software development, but they don't have, there is a gap in quality of measuring quality of data, and they start to develop this standard because complexity increases. You will see a lot complex stuff today, so it's ready for this, but increasing, but complexity increases risk of risk of what? If something is complex, what's the risk? More bugs? Yeah, somebody will die, or maybe both, more bugs and somebody dies. So they propose this structure, they try to apply a SPICE process for data management issues, but they not succeeded in it, and they proposed data maturity model for checking quality of data. And I will not stop too much on this, but this model just compare some reference model, which is good quality data, with another model, which is actual data. And there's a book and there are a lot of materials regarding this topic. So if anyone from you would be involved in data analysis, we have this contact point, and we have this example how the data quality can be mapped to other aspects of development. For example, tool chain processes is the SPICE, data content is data maturity model, and for IT services there are some other standards, and all this would require metrics and measurement. So actually, back to the conference, what it was and what the content of the conference. Don't try to read this text, it just high-scale overview, just to let you feel the amount of data. Of course, I was not able to attend everything because it was 3 different sections and I had to choose. And the conference took 3 days. 1 day was workshops, other 2 days were sessions. So let's zoom in this scale. About Bosch, I just mentioned their data model. And next stop would be the following. Just let me briefly explain. The main topics are related to quality assurance, which is not only relation to customer and supplier relationship, but for process models, how to make it work, and how to fulfill compliance requirements to regulated standards. Also some stuff for machine learning and security and verification validation, but they're not, they would not be shared here much, but you have a reference to them. And NVIDIA actually, regarding the roles which I mentioned, because of scale of artificial intelligence development, new roles would be demanded on the market, such as data engineer, data analyst, applied machine learning engineer, data scientist, and the foundation for all this is are SPICE, ISO 26262, and other standards. And the organization has to be transformed also. They could have virtualized their development and need to have mature development process. And just to let you feel the scale of these roles in NVIDIA, there are 1,500 labelers. This role who put labels on data sets, and other roles and models and stuff which is measured all by petabyte. Yeah, it's PB. Yeah. These figures which we could not imagine a decade ago, and actually to handle this data, to handle these roles, to combine all in process, they have to be aligned and they have to be managed in some kind of process. And the challenge is to really align all this together and to measure and to make sure that no mistake is made. Next session was challenge of new supplier management from Honda. And before I go to slides, let's try to. I'll show you some videos.
The ongoing digitalization of automobile development and production is resulting in a massive increase in volume and complexity of the software developed to support connected, automated, shared services and electrification. Additionally, the amount of data created in such development processes is massive. Development of complex systems requires dealing with a large number of development personnel and external suppliers. The challenges of visualizing information and development of evidence management has become more critical. In response to these challenges, Honda has been utilizing Application Lifecycle Management, or ALM. Let's take a look at how we utilized ALM functions while applying the PDCA cycle to the Automated Driving Development Program. During the plan stage, a control model is created based on the design concept. At the same time, a test case is designed, which is required to verify the control model accuracy and robustness. The resulting design data is stored in ALM. During the do stage, the control model is simulated with the vehicle model to cover a wide range of scenarios. After the simulations are executed successfully, an ECU prototype is integrated with the hardware for bench testing. After successfully validating the control design on the bench, the control design is implemented on actual vehicles and subjected to testing on public streets. During the check stage, the results of the driving scenarios on bench and public streets are reviewed and analyzed in the ALM system. During the action stage, solutions are requested from the development team to address the results of bug analysis. During this process, smooth communication with development partners and suppliers is critical. ALM allows the teams to visualize and share all information, such as accumulated driving conditions data, bug analysis, control model updates, and test requests. This development cycle is repeated to advance development until all bugs are resolved. While all aspects are managed within the ALM platform until development is fully completed. ALM provides traceability across the development process, from requirement definitions to design and testing as an evidence management system. We can leverage the ALM platform traceability for bug analysis and visualization of development status to improve development transparency. ALM is serving as a communication tool with external suppliers. The management and visualization enabled through the use of ALM to manage development data has rapidly increased development efficiency. By collecting information in ALM to further optimize the development process, Honda has been able to achieve AI auto analysis and use of big data as we seek to further evolve the development of automated driving.
Right. システムの規模と複雑さは大幅に増加しています。また、その結果の管理においては、OEM として。
Challenge on the head. They had feeling of increasing complexity also, and they expected workload, and they figured out that there should be some way to handle this complexity. But there's some cultural specifics in Japan, so the suppliers can understand the requirements of request without receiving anything or just part of the information from OEMs. So he was speaking about this in such proud that it's something like magic, and he mentioned this kind of aum, or it's kind of om breathing. It's something common to Japan, and they have this style of working, and I can tell you from my experience, we have now also projects involved in Japan and America, and the style of working really differs from both of them, and they're really hard workers. And I will show you how they describe their process and what they did with them. You will understand what it means to be hard workers and to make it anyway working fine. Actually, from the challenges and common goals they had problem with communication with different parts of suppliers, and they choose SPICE as common language, and they choose LM as common platform for data management. So you can see they had project approach with some foundation for baseline for process, which is SPICE, as I mentioned. They tailored it for autonomous driving, identified the concrete use cases and verification points, and they made improvements in agile way. So they made it step by step. They involved users very much, and they had user support in back office. They used the verification method, which is ticket driven, and it's not seen well because it's not presented in the material which I shared, but giving some information. So it's actually plan, do, check, act cycle by these arrows and indicators of tool set. Here is the scale of system like landscape which they use. So it's like huge, and they put it in simulations, fire management, different parts, hardware in the loop, software in the loop, vehicle testing, measurement data, and keep evidence of everything, which is a requirement of automotive, and they manage their system. And so before, they could not evaluate the capability of their suppliers, and it was difficult to identify root cause when some problem occurred. After they changed the approach, they have been evaluated using SPICE, and root causes and processes which any problems which was occurring, they detected, traced, and closed. And the Honda has requested supplier to follow their quality standard, and now most suppliers accept automotive SPICE assessment because it can be commonly used. As you know, SPICE is more common for German probably, but you see, and I will show that all over the world, in Japan, US, it's more and more widely used. And they actually implemented internal process using this automotive SPICE basis, and they even proposed some improvements to this process. For example, for product management, they proposed for month 3, proposed multi-location project management and common platform for information sharing. So how to fulfill requirement of automotive SPICE and another standard which I mentioned at the beginning, IATF 16949. It was next topic, and actually some questions in the questionnaire were related to what's the SPICE. It's not training for SPICE, we have separately, but they did a really good overview, so I briefly tell you those who don't know. SPICE is software process improvement and capability determination, and the international standard. It's used for identify possibilities to improve development process and to check capability of development processes of different suppliers. And it's not only covers software, but also other parts of hardware. And structure is there are areas for capability determination and the process dimension. Capability determination means how mature are processes and suppliers, and process dimensions are definition of which processes has to be placed and which outcomes they have. And there are levels of a SPICE. You often hear someone achieve level 1, 2, or 3. So level 1 is someone specifies document and it's already traceable. And level 3, level 2 means that full teams can do this, and they can plan activities and create products which are verified. And level 3, the full project team is using tailored standard process from the organization, and the assessment results looks like this. The official assessments provide this kind of result. But SPICE is not only one standard in automotive, because there are other standards, which is ITF, which I mentioned, ISO 26262, and like portion of SPICE or CMMI in all this is represented in this picture. So the process scope is a horizontal line. So ITF is more related to process. ITF is more like ISO 9001, but for automotive industry. And on the vertical axis is process details. So ISO 26262 has more technical details of process, just general information. And the standard defines how, and project actually defines project actually is doing it. Yeah, and there is feedback loop, and it's used for improvement. And here is example that the organization development of product with embedded software. Organization shall use some quality assurance, which is sub 1 in SPICE, and software development assessment methodology, actually it's SPICE itself. And to achieve capability, organization process have to be assessed. And ITF requires also similar stuff. It says that competent personnel has to be to achieve design requirements. Design requirements are from SYS 2 and SYS 3, system architecture and software architecture design. And for product design skills, they require personnel has responsibility and competent to achieve design requirements. And you see the mapping to SPICE also exists. So there are proposals how to map these two standards. And actually, this slide from another speech, but I put it here because there is one more publication from VDA. It's Automotive SPICE Guidance, which explains many process in detail, how to do it, and especially how to assess these processes. Usually, teams projects have some part of legacy software, third-party software, and when something was already developed and you need to confirm that it is compliant to process, current like pure SPICE is not equipped well to handle this. With Automotive SPICE guidelines, they try to explain and help with it, but it's not end, because there's still a problem to prove that what was developed could not develop from scratch by ideal process. As you remember, I mentioned ideal process don't exist. So if it was not developed right, it's hard to prove that it's compliant. Another guys from Italy, actually, we know them. It's Fabio Falcini and Giuseppe Lamy. They provided training for us. They proposed, they work in Italian Institute Software Development, and they proposed the method which can combine, which can explain processes to everyone in more human, natural way, because they think that process models are not automotive enough, because they borrowed from another, from ISO standards. So it should be as simple as just in web, put in the cart, shopping cart. So they focus on key points and have some balanced approach. So they expect it to be like envelope over existing standards. So from 22 processes, they grouped it in 5 segments, and they related the segments accordingly, and they proposed the so-called April acronym for model content drivers, which means same approach as used in standard functional safety. It's risk-based. So where is more risk, the more important first attention should be put there. All this adequacy attribute, which use best practices and requires organizational support and technological innovation. So they regrouped processes in segments and did some examples. For example, for software requirements management, they made this methodics, the description, improvement tips, tailoring criteria, and notes. So it's more like guidance for people how to apply it in everyday work. And actually, Fiat Chrysler has integrated the pizza model to their standards, and pizza model was acquired by Chinese national standard organization, and they have a roadmap to make it publicly available. It's already soon, at the end of this month, and then in October would be international board, and then would make some also assessment qualification. And it can be accessible if anyone wants to try it. With process, with customer requirements, process requirements, there is issue also. And from Martina from ZF, they actually stated this problem that often a customer not only requires technical stuff, but process stuff, and it's very complicated, and it's hard to relate the process requirements to make the breakdown structure to accomplish this process requirements in structured way. So they try to apply system requirements analysis process for process requirements. So the first idea is they analyze customer requirements, and customer requirement traceability, and they have to map it to the SPI standard, and they have to map to their internal standard. So it was not working for them because it was the customer process requirements were very customer specific, and reuse was difficult. And the internal process also describes some stuff which existed, and it was double documentation. And to satisfy traceability, it was a huge amount of work. So regarding this slide is from keynote from Open Synergy. They mentioned this market forces related to quality standards. Often OEM quality requirements are put down to tire quality requirements, and maybe that's why there is such mess with requirements, because they OEM has bigger scale of requirements to process. Some suppliers responsible for maybe system parts, some, for example, USA, some part like GlobalLogic responsible for software part, another part globally responsible for hardware. So it's all located, and when need to be translated, there is because of complexity, there is a risk of wrong interpretation and risk for the end process. For suppliers, there is a risk to fulfill this, to understand this requirement for it. So approach from the ZF was handle process requirements with some workflow. I will not talk much on this because it's complicated. So they did verification of the specification, then establish an analysis and traceability to their processes. And if consistency achieved, they adopt and update their own processes and align with customers only in case if they really prove that customer requirement to the process was not good. So they actually even propose or propose to formulate correctly customer requirements of the process. And so the loop they did with some tools. They used stages, doors, and some other systems. They put links to maybe process descriptions. To analyze process requirements is one example how they do this kind of requirement, functional and non-functional, and it's process part of requirement and role who responsible for this. They check consistency and they link to requirements of their systems. And they do yearly workshops called engineering quality, where they analyzed project-specific tailoring based on internal needs of projects, and they analyze process inherence and make advices and corrective actions. So benefits from their approach: no double documentation, clarified responsibilities. They reuse a lot of already written documentation, and they have metrics in place. For 100 coverage not possible because there are still some not completely defined requirements. From Magneti Marelli, company was presentation how much organization for SPICE can help fulfill ITF 1694849 requirements. By the way, Magneti Marelli, from kind of news, they it's Italian company. They merged with some Japan company called Sonic and Say. Now it's not Magneti Marelli, simply Marelli company. So what issues they had? Their people don't knew procedures and templates to be used in processes. It's something could be common for many companies. Many remarks from team members. They didn't knew tailoring rules, how adapt processes to their work, and the development process still is very complex and documentation heavy and difficult to maintain, and best practices and quality culture had difficulties to remain well established in the whole company. They made improvement and benefits. They got well-described process, tailoring rules, internal audits which check it. So how did they achieve? What was the improvements? They started in 2003 for process improvement activities following the SPICE standards. They were ranked level 0. Remember the rank which I shown you before. And in 2 years later, they achieved the SPICE level 1 on one of the projects, and next year they achieved level 2. No, not achieved yet, but started to work on a process improvement plan. And only in 2008 they achieved level 2 and process improvement plan. And in almost 7 years passed from year 2003 to 2010 when they started process improvement plan for one of the projects for level 3, and 2 years later achieved level 3, and because of new version of the SPICE, they plan to renew this. So you can see the years started in 2003, and only in current year they achieved. They plan to update, but the level that they achieved is 2012. It took them a while to make it. So they have two kind of teams which deal with this process. They have the engineering process group and process team, and actually process team make tools, methods, development of team responsibilities, and make quality assurance representative from the team. Task which we do, they analyze process change request, feedback from developers from the team, and ensure training, knowledge transfer, and they provide the sources this process change request to CPG team, and to participate in customer assessments and customer meetings and so on. And this bigger team, which quality system representatives, they consist of manager and functional safety representative, so cover different standards, and they analyze change requests for the process and define processes on company level. Also, it helps to combine several standards. For example, for ITF, there is requirement for product safety, which says organization shall have documented process for management of. By the way, I will check the chat maybe from remote. There are some questions. At least I will. Okay, so ITF has a requirement for safety. Similarity is in SPICE best practice, and they made impact analysis and mapping of both standards. This defined responsibilities, roles, and started to implement it. So, what challenges they had? What changes were in ITF? So it had the context, added context of organization, and added leadership commitment, and added product safety. So the standard extended its scale. If you remember the horizontal line showing the processes has now bigger scale, and they had to adapt the processes at least for this highlighted stuff, which is planning, doing, and check. It's how many gaps, how many tasks they closed, and how they achieved the. Not sure. So next presentation was method from impact evaluation approach for process dimension. So quality management system has to be aligned with business needs and quality model. And many standards appear, and lessons learned and industry experience and benchmarking resulted in this impact approach, which Rajesh from VAP proposed. So basic general approach for process development, which is well known, standards, processes, procedures, templates, tools. And so one level says what to do, guidelines checklist how to do, and data reuse or results from execution, and metrics as indicators. So they proposed this template for evaluation of approach, and first quadrant is defining weight of each value, like process proposed, inputs, and outcome. Second quadrant is a list of core products which have to be in place to achieve it, templates, with verification criteria. Third quadrant is adherence to standards in SPICE or ISO 26262 or IDF, and fourth is guidance and metrics. So they have this access in which cell is these four quadrants, and by basis of these values in cell, they provide this measurement of this FACT acronym, which is foundation, artifact coverage, compliance, and tactical. And this is their process definition period. They started in August 17 and ended in September 18 with continuous measurement. And let's say the team motivation is higher than they constantly see the progress with the quality. But metrics can collapse because Goldratt's law for economics say that any observed statistical regularity will trend to collapse when pressure is placed upon process, and actually many people work in pressure. So from back to, how do you feel? Do you need some break or can continue? Like a 5-minute break would make sense? Okay, let's make a 5-minute break. At 4 o'clock, we'll continue.
Thank you.
okay. While guys are gathering here in the room, maybe some feedback from remote participants. You can speak aloud or type. Not, then let's continue. So this from section 2, what we covered. And, now I will show some other challenges with other company has. The company name is IBEO. It started its history, its cooperation contract with Valeo in 2010, and they actually develop systems for autonomous driving, different sensors. They started to cooperate with ZF, became shareholder of IBEO in 2016, and now IBEO is produce a lot of stuff for different cars. And the aim of autonomous driving system is achieve level 4 to 5 for serial application. Autonomous driving level 4 and 5. 5 is when car goes by self, yes. And, but this red highlights what IBEO is, and this gray are what third-party deals with. And the perception is fusion 4D lidar and radar video, and autonomous driving interpretation, planning, and control. Just general idea about the company. So for functional safety, they propose SOTIF approach. SOTIF is an iterative process based on knowledge gained in their experience through development. It's based on agile development, where design changes need to ensure safety in complex environment, and design changes and change requests, and especially if there are a lot of them on project, they influence all phases of development, especially when connected to functional safety, which is more technical standard than SPICE or ISO or IATA. And classical project planning is slow to react in unknown functionalities. So they propose its SOTIF approach to ensure safety goals and requirements are met, and most important goal was to identify unknown unsafe scenarios and improve system restrict use case. So they have it described, the materials can be accessed or requested additionally if necessary. So they have challenges how to achieve effective communication of changes between all levels of view model, identify changes. For example, changes in operational design domain may impact many developers, but so frequent update not always necessary, because when a team sits together, they develop one feature, they know it well, and they don't write it down, and sometimes communication between developers become messy, and from other side, communication over single point of contact is slows down the process. How to deal with documentation when change appears, how to link requirement design, levels, all these issues we face also. And it was in the questionnaire, someone responded. They need to know about these challenges and how to combine the strengths of classical planning with agile development. They give some also play with classical approach, then made agile adaptation of approach when architecture and requirements run in parallel. They like developments in modules. So I will not dig too much in detail, just to give you a basic overview. And they had still have challenge how to run many processes in parallel when making some prototype, like unit test coding and static code analysis, and from the same time make already some documentation. What steps necessary to go from the prototype to something which can be eventually complied to standard to be accepted by assessors. Slide is from Open Synergy again. Actually, those guys I like very much. They did a keynote, but they covered. Looks like they seen most of the sessions before and new answers to most of them. So, of course, Open Synergy had challenges in software development outside of automotive quality standards and conflicting market forces and issues with if only measure for the sake of measurement or just do things right and measurement be done automatically. They have a variety of software platforms, and software products and processes, and not it cannot be ignored. What is the most essential part to make the product better? OEM or Tier 1 use some third-party software. They accelerate speed of innovation. They provide best. They sometimes they even push to make time to market to deliver faster while you place. And it's actually a headache of management, more management. But from other sides, they require Tier 1 require automotive quality standards and certifications. And at the end, people just do it, and then someone else has to go it. And ISO 26262 most common use is SAOC, software element out of concept. So it's like when something is developed not by the standard, but it's used in a bigger system. Integrator integrates different parts from different vendors, and they're not sure that they're compliant with the standard, and they expect that some miracle will happen. And at the end, not software is like infotainment and connectivity can be developed not according to the standard, but for AD and ADAS systems, it's critical to comply to the standard. And comfort zone, you see it's like 2 quadrants distance when it's testing compliant to the standard or not. And the artificial intelligence software, they also assure challenges for human because of the complexity of dependencies in software and data overload and how to balance data protection, data sharing, this architectural stuff, which has to be handled when it comes to artificial intelligence. And for systems, it's also a challenge because can be large security attacks, and the system has to be independent from the human, and need to have data sets in which to train, and the system need to learn because artificial intelligence is secure. So to assure that autonomous systems would work, that has to be trust in software quality, quality assurance, and vulnerability discovery analysis. And when autonomy is in place, it's important. You know this scale probably from previous, but modern development and testing tools will be critical because earlier error is found, the cheaper it's to fix. For example, when where software flows are introduced, it's 70% is introduced on system design requirements and software architecture, and 20% on code development, and only 10% on integration. And when it's introduced, and below is where software flows actually found. And statistics is not so bright. 3 and 5% found with architecture requirements, so on, and code development 16%, and the integration half of faults found, and in operations there are pretty much like 21% of errors found. Again, no. In ideal world, there are quality standards, features, innovations, and best possible product. But it's ideal world. And what's challenging world, really available brain power, very mature and very not mature, but very hardworking engineers. They develop things, they change, think about quality. Someone follows standards, someone not, and the company needs to be certified at the end. How to align this world? We have across GL advanced process open community when we can communicate, if not in personal, but through remote locations. You can put your process-related thoughts and some generic findings or generic improvement trends. So welcome. Thank you once more, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.